Let's be honest, planning a move can feel like a total whirlwind, right? There are just so many things to juggle. But what if I told you that one of the very first pieces of paper you get, that Removalist quote, is actually the key to making the whole thing a breeze? Well, today we're going to decode it together. So you've done your homework, you've called a few companies, and the quotes are starting to hit your inbox. But instead of making things clearer, they just seem to add to the chaos. Different layouts, weird terminology, prices that feel like they're pulled out of thin air. It's a super common frustration. But don't worry, we're about to clear all of that up.
All right, let's try a little mindset shift. Stop thinking of that quote as just a bill. It's not. It's your plan. It's the roadmap for your entire move. A really good quote spells out every single step, which helps you budget properly and, most importantly, guarantees there are no nasty surprises on moving day. It really is your guide to a successful move. To make this super simple, we've broken it all down into 5 key parts. We're going to start with why the quote is so darn important in the first place. Then, we'll dive into what makes up the price, the optional extras you can get, what things can change the cost, and finally, we'll cover the really crucial stuff, insurance and the fine print. You ready? Let's get into it.
Okay, first things first, why should you even care about all the little details in your quote? Well, this whole section is about going from feeling totally confused and in the dark to feeling empowered and completely in control of your move. So here is the #1 thing to remember. A vague quote is a massive red flag. A professional, trustworthy company wants you to see every single detail because they stand by their service. You're not just comparing price tags here, you're comparing how they do business. A detailed quote means they've got nothing to hide, and that's exactly what you want.
So, what are you actually paying for? Well, no matter if you're moving out of a tiny studio or a giant 5-bedroom house, every quote is built on the same core elements. Let's dig into that foundation. At the very heart of any quote is what's called the inventory assessment. It's really just a detailed list of everything you're planning to move. The removalist uses this list to figure out the total volume of your stuff, usually in cubic meters. That number tells them what size truck they need and roughly how long the job will take. Getting this inventory right is absolutely crucial for an accurate price.
So, how can you help them get that inventory right? Simple. Be as detailed as you possibly can. List your furniture room by room, give them a good guess on how many boxes you'll have. And here's a pro tip. Snap some photos of anything that's really big, really heavy, or just plain awkward. Oh, and don't forget to tell them about property access, which we'll get to in a bit. Next up is distance. This one's pretty straightforward, right? The farther the truck has to drive, the more you'll pay for fuel and the crew's time on the road. For a local move, it's a smaller part of the bill, but if you're moving interstate, this becomes a really significant cost. So make sure you give them the exact addresses for both places. Now, what's really fascinating here is seeing how the type of move throws up completely different challenges. Moving a house is one thing, but moving from a high-rise apartment means dealing with elevators, strict parking rules, and lots of stairs. An office move might need to happen after hours, and moving a single huge item, like a piano, needs special skills and equipment. All of these unique things will be factored into your quote.
Okay, beyond just getting your stuff from A to B, most moving companies offer a bunch of optional services. Sure, they'll add to the final cost, but man, they can save you an incredible amount of time and stress. Let's see how you can customize your move.
Probably the most popular add-on is packing. You can get a full-service deal where a team comes in and packs literally everything. Or you could opt for a partial service. Maybe you just want them to handle the kitchen or your fragile glassware. Some even offer unpacking services. Your quote should clearly spell out the cost for the labor and any materials for these options.
Now think about all your big furniture. Your bed, that huge wardrobe, the dining table. A lot of that stuff has to be taken apart to get it out the door safely. This is another service you can ask to have included. Honestly, letting the pros handle this saves you a massive headache and make sure you don't lose any of the little screws along the way.
All right, now it's time to talk about the variables. These are the things that can make the price on your quote go up or down. And knowing what they are ahead of time is the best way to avoid any of those dreaded hidden fees on moving day. Property access is a huge one. Are there 3 flights of stairs and no elevator? Is it a super long walk from where the truck can park to your front door? Do you have a really narrow driveway? All these things take more time and more effort from the crew, and that's going to be reflected in the price. So just be totally upfront about any challenges to get that accurate quote.
Believe it or not, when you move makes a big difference. The moving industry has a peak season, usually from about October to March. Moving during that time, or on a weekend or a public holiday, is almost always more expensive because demand is so high.
If you've got some flexibility, booking your move for a weekday during the off-season is probably the easiest way to save a bit of cash.
You know, forgetting to mention one of these special items is one of the quickest ways to have a really bad moving day. Just imagine the crew showing up without the right gear to move your piano. It causes delays, it adds a ton of stress, and it can definitely lead to extra charges. So mentioning these things up front isn't just about getting the right price, it's about making sure the team shows up ready to go.
Okay, we've made it to our final section, and you could argue it's the most important one of all. Insurance. This is the part of the quote that so many people just skim over, but it is absolutely essential for your peace of mind. So please, pay close attention to this.
So, most removalists will include some kind of basic insurance coverage in their quote. But you really need to stop and ask yourself this question. What does it actually cover? Is that standard, bare-bones protection enough for all of your valuable things? More often than not, the answer is no. You've got to understand your options.
So here's a simple breakdown. Basic transit insurance. That usually only covers you for a total catastrophe, like if the truck catches fire or is in a major accident. What it almost never covers is accidental damage. You know, someone drops a box or a table gets scratched while being loaded. For that kind of protection, you need a more comprehensive policy, often called full accidental damage insurance. Make sure you know exactly which one you're being offered.
And you absolutely have to read the fine print, because insurance policies are full of exclusions. A really common one is that they won't cover damage to items inside boxes that you packed yourself. They also might not cover an electronic device that suddenly stops working unless there's obvious physical damage to the outside. You have to be aware of these limits before you sign on the dotted line.
So there you have it. After breaking it all down, that quote is no longer some confusing document. It's your most powerful tool for a smooth, stress-free move. You now know how to look right past the final dollar amount and see the story a quote tells about a company's professionalism. So the only real question left is, whose story is the right one for you?